Do I really need to say that Avatar is a masterpiece? We all know it by now. It was an animation marvel, completely shook up the animation industry and elevated people's expectations with stories for years to come. It's still considered among the best of the best in terms of animated stories, or even just stories in general. Everyone loves it, obviously, but I think we can also admit that it is far from perfect. The Great Divide is notoriously hated amongst even the most hardcore of fans. There's ups and downs with the series as a whole, but I specifically wanted to talk about what I consider to be the weakest season of the show, Book 3, Fire.
Airbender, Fire Lord, blah 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 blah.
Most people will probably tell you that they think Book 2, Earth, is the best season, because it is. Come on, we get Toph in this season. She's the best ever.
I am the greatest earthbender in the world. Don't you two dunderheads ever forget it.
Book 1 was a great groundwork for the show to start on, but everything that we associate with the greatness of the show really only started to pop off with its second season. The storylines were threaded together in much more intricate and dynamic ways. We had villains trying to be good, heroes doing things that were bad. The animation was much more consistent compared to Book 1, and the quality of the animation, and especially the combat choreography, got huge improvements too. I wouldn't be surprised if most people said that Book 1 was the weakest season for the show. The humor is a little too goofy and weird sometimes. There's like 5 sneeze-related jokes in the first episode. It's not amazing. Most of what's considered the worst episodes of the show are in the first season. The Great Divide, like I said.
If you Ganjins weren't so clean, maybe you wouldn't live to be so old.
Bato of the Water Tribe gets a lot of hate.
Well, you can go to the North Pole on your own. I'm going to find Dad.
The Fortune Teller is pretty bland.
A girl? You want to know about love?
Yes.
But I think people are too quick to forget that some of the show's absolute best episodes are also in this season. The Blue Spirit.
The Avatar must be captured alive!
The Storm.
I'll never forget the day the monks told me I was the Avatar.
The Southern Air Temple. But then there's Book 3. Book 3 has always stood out a little more to me than the others. I think I've seen more reruns of Book 3 episodes compared to any other season. See, while Book 1 showed a glimpse of what was going to make the show great, and then Book 2 really brought the show to life with the jump in quality and intricate storytelling and character plots, Book 3 was different. Season 2 raised expectations so much higher than ever before, so now its final season had a bigger level of quality it had to hit. And if I'm honest, I don't quite think it hits the mark. Of course, Book 3 is still phenomenal in its own right. The combat choreography and animation reaches ultimate levels of quality, giving us some of the most beautiful animations ever, not just for the show, I mean it, like ever. We have some of the most inspiring episodes that stick with people for a multitude of reasons, the emotional turbulence of the beach,
I'm angry at myself!
the haunting reveal of bloodbending and the Puppet Master. But I can't deny that there's also quite a few misses. The headband is fun, but overall a kind of goofy way to start the season. The Painted Lady is super boring and is ruined by contrived plot points and out-of-character moments. But what really makes me say Book 3 is the weakest is the fact it feels rushed. The season can pretty easily be split into 2 halves. The first half, which I call the funny shenanigans half, and the second one after the eclipse, which I call Speedrun Zuko befriending the gang. And I think that is really the heart of my problem with the season. Zuko joins Team Avatar way too late.
And I know
My destiny is to help you restore balance to the world.
When I was initially trying to think of why Book 3 felt so weird to me, I initially thought it would have made more sense if we cut out episodes from the funny shenanigans half. That way we could introduce Zuko into the team sooner than the halfway point of the season. Book 3 technically has 21 episodes, though lots of times they combine the 4-part finale into one really big episode, so it looks like it only has 18 or 16 or something, depending on where you're looking at it. But yes, actually though, it has just as many episodes as the other 2 seasons. But let's compare this to Book 2, introducing Toph to the team.
Dad changed his mind. He said I was free to travel the world.
Toph officially joins Team Avatar at the end of episode 6, leaving 14 more episodes of the season for her to interact with the characters and establish herself into their friend group, on top of giving us all that time to also show her teaching Aang how to earthbend. Personally, I never really got the feeling Aang actually learned to firebend. Like, he can, we see him doing it, but he doesn't really train on screen at all. Instead, while Zuko is running off with his misadventures with the South Pole siblings, it's implied Aang is doing most of his training off-screen.
One more thing. Aang, practice your firebending while I'm gone.
Which makes him learning the element feel like it doesn't really have a lot of impact. Toph had plenty of episodes where we can see her teaching Aang earthbending, or at least having her mentioning their training. And her characterization doesn't get interrupted with the various plot beats happening around her. Hell, the episode right after Toph joins the team is Zuko alone, an episode where none of Team Avatar even show up. Then 3 episodes right after that is the library, an episode where Toph spends the majority of the runtime separated from the others.
Let me know if they have something you can listen to.
Book 2 can afford to have episodes where Toph doesn't engage with the rest of the gang because there's still plenty of episodes around that where she does. And Zuko in Book 3 doesn't get that luxury. Zuko officially joins Team Avatar at the end of the 12th episode, meaning there's only 5 episodes left before the 4-parter finale. That's not a lot of time to make it feel like he's bonded with any of the members of Team Avatar, which is why they try to remedy that idea by having the life-changing field trips with Zuko episodes, where Aang, Sokka, and Katara each get episodes where they and Zuko go off alone on adventures. While I get the idea of what they're going for with these episodes, I think it was a detriment in the long run. First of all, it keeps Zuko's interactions with everyone feeling very separated and situational from each other, rather than having them bonding all together as a team. Yeah, Zuko is spending 2 episodes only getting to talk to Sokka, but that also means it's 2 whole episodes where Aang and Katara aren't interacting with him at all. And what's worse is Toph and Suki in their entirety barely get to engage with Zuko, because they don't get the luxury of having mini episodic one-on-one adventures with him.
Everyone else went on a life-changing field trip with Zuko. Now it's my turn.
Which ties into another thing. Suki barely gets to be a part of Team Avatar. At least Zuko got 6 episodes with the gang before Sozin's Comet arrived. Suki only got 3.
Air, water, earth, fire, fan and sword.
She never felt like a real member of the team because she barely gets to be there, and when she is, she only talks to Sokka. So, like I said, I thought the best thing would be to cut out some of the early episodes to introduce Zuko and then Suki into the main group sooner. But actually, I think it would be way better if we just rearranged some episodes around. Start with the Awakening, obviously, then have the Headband and the Beach, and then Nightmares and Daydreams, and then have the Eclipse 2-parter be episodes 4 and 5 of the season. Zuko joins Team Avatar in episode 6, just like Toph did back in Book 2, and then just move the Boiling Rock subplot to like episode 9 or something. Because the funny shenanigan episodes are fun and worth keeping around. Not only are the episodic adventures like this Avatar's bread and butter, but they also serve the important purpose of showing us and the characters that the Fire Nation is also a nation of real people, normal people, people who care, who aren't the same as the Fire Lord. The Avatar's job is to help everybody, and that includes the Fire Nation. Showing us the culture of the Fire Nation and reminding us that there are well-meaning folks who deserve to be saved, just like how they've saved people from the Earth Kingdom and the Water Tribes, is vitally important.
Helping people. That's what I do.
But Also, these episodes can feel like they drag a bit sometimes. And I think it's because usually episodes will show us two different plot lines. The main plot with Aang and his team's misadventures, but we also always keep up with what Zuko's got going on. And in books 1 and 2, Zuko's story was much more dynamic. He was chasing Aang, making plans, developing with Iroh, getting into the Earth Kingdom, emotional nightmares, all kinds of stuff. Book 3, however, just shows Zuko just sort of milling around, really. Generally existing, but now he's a prince. We see him talk to Iroh a bit, and we see his confusion and turmoil with his choices. We see the life he's always wanted, and we watch him realize it wasn't what really was going to make him happy. And that's all important stuff, I guess, but also, it's not much to really show on screen. Remember, I said he joins the team in episode 12. It's 12 episodes of him just kind of standing around doing nothing, really, and it feels pointless to be on screen. So instead, if Zuko was a part of Team Avatar, we could have used that extra time to better establish his bonds with the others. Like, imagine if, in Sokka's Master, rather than just having Aang and the others sitting around being bored, have there be a subplot about Zuko training Aang with firebending. Have him parallel Pi and Tao as they both realize their pupils are skilled. They just go about their lessons with a different perspective than most. Imagine in The Painted Lady, Zuko would see exactly what kind of things the team was doing all those times he was chasing them down to random different towns back in book 1. Imagine The Runaway with Zuko being on the team. Whether he sides with Toph and the others or not, either scenario would be neat to see. Imagine if Zuko was siding with Toph and participated in the scams. After all, he's been the Blue Spirit and got away with all sorts of shady stuff on his own. Maybe now he'd feel like this is a way they can all kind of relate to each other over something. Or, on the flip side, imagine him agreeing with Katara, thinking it's risky and unnecessary. It would be a good way to show the development between him and Katara, having her faced with a situation that he's the only one siding with her over something like this. Thinking about that plotline, imagine the Puppet Master, but Hama tries to have Sokka kill Zuko instead of Aang. Katara choosing to bloodbend to save his life, the guy she threatened and hated and resented. That would really show the strides their development has gone through towards creating real bonds between them. A lot more than just the plotline with the Southern Raiders, which, honestly, they barely even talk to each other in that episode anyways.
This isn't fair. Everyone else seems to trust me now.
Same thing with Suki if she joined the team earlier. Just having these characters around more to give them more opportunities to engage with the others in the team, even casually, would have gone a long way towards really defining who Team Avatar is supposed to be. Give time to better show Aang learning his firebending. Maybe give us some extra time to, like, actually establish the lion turtle and energy bending. You know, before the literal last second. Huh? Another thing about book 3 that I feel like is kind of weak is the villains. First, let's tackle Combustion Man, book 3's sub-villain. Each book of Avatar has a sub-villain, who's more of a threat than the other random one-episode villains they occasionally come across. These sub-villains last much longer throughout the season, posing as a continual threat outside of the main adversary of the Fire Nation forces. Book 1, it was Zhao, and book 2, it was Longfang. Zhao was interesting because he mostly was a conflict for Zuko to handle.
Captain Zhao.
It's Commander now.
Yeah, we didn't want Zuko to capture the Avatar, but when it came down to him versus Zhao, we were rooting for Zuko to win. Zhao was also used as a moral opposite of Zuko. Zuko's story is about trying to reclaim his honor, where Zhao has rank and titles, but shows less honor than Zuko does. Iroh teaches Zuko about spirits and respect, while Zhao tries to kill the moon. Zhao is hardly the most memorable part of book 1, but he plays a unique role in the development of Aang and Zuko's journeys. Also, he's voiced by Jason Isaac. That's crazy. Longfang in Book 2 is also interesting.
It's my job to oversee the rest of the city's resources, including the military.
He doesn't really show up until after the halfway point when the team enters Ba Sing Se. The first half of the season was meant to better set up Azula and her team as the new main villains for the gang, while showing Zuko start to walk the path of redemption. Longfang and the Dai Li were a lot of fun. He was conniving. He always seemed to be 2 steps ahead of the others. It was also interesting to see someone who wasn't a firebender standing in the way of the heroes' progress, playing with fighting earthbenders a lot, and highlighting how Azula is even more cunning than he is. Longfang was 2 steps ahead of the gang, but then Azula outplayed him almost immediately, hammering home just how much of a danger she truly is for the heroes.
You've beaten me at my own game.
Don't flatter yourself. You were never even a player.
Also, he's voiced by Clancy Brown. Oh my god, that's bananas. But with Book 3, all we get is Combustion Man. And I'm gonna say it, it's time we start being honest about our critiques with Avatar. Combustion Man sucks. He's boring. I mean, yes, the whole combustion thing is incredibly cool. This is hands down one of the most unique forms of bending ever. On threat level alone, he easily dwarfs both Longfang and Zhao, not only with his mind explosions, but also with his sheer bodily strength and his robotic limbs. Remember the, vulture he has? He has a little pet birdie for 1 episode, and then it gets instantly forgotten. Well, yeah, his bending style is cool, but he's not doing anything Pli didn't also do and more in Korra. Pli got the coolness of the combustion bending and also got to be an actual character too. And she stuck around a lot longer than Combustion Man ever did, so we got to show off her fighting skills even more.
It's Sparky Sparky Boom Man!
You know, I'm starting to think that name doesn't quite fit.
Combustion Man just has no personality. He doesn't emote, we don't get a hint of any humanizing characterization from him at all, which makes him so forgettable compared to the other sub-villains we've seen. The only purpose he serves is to help be the thing that convinces Aang that Zuko does want to be good now. But more than just Combustion Man, we have Azula and the betrayal of her friends. Her descent into madness is awfully quick, isn't it? Everyone always talks up how Ty Lee and May betraying her broke her mentally, but it's just so sudden. Remember what I was just saying about Longfang? Azula out-masterminded him easily, but her buddies turning their backs on her was too much for this genius manipulator to handle? What's worse is I don't even see why they betrayed her. May decides to throw away everything for Zuko after only 1 very brief conversation after they had already broken up.
You're betraying your country.
That's not how I see it. What are you doing?
Saving the jerk who dumped me.
Knowing they don't even stay together long after the end of the series just makes the whole betrayal feel even more hollow. I would have loved instead to have spent more time on Azula and her friends to better build up the reasoning behind their character shifts. Have May really start to empathize with Zuko's intentions. Have her see the ugly side of the war, convincing her just how badly Azula needs to be stopped and that Zuko needs to be saved. And it's even worse with Ty Lee. Ty Lee has only ever been shown to be obsessed with Azula. Every single step of the way, from the moment she was introduced, Ty Lee does whatever Azula says. She fawns over Azula constantly.
But you're the most beautiful, smartest, perfect girl in the world.
May's excuse for betraying Azula is flimsy, but at least she has one. Ty Lee, out of frigging nowhere, just suddenly decides to turn her back on the one person she's been the most dedicated and loyal to throughout the whole show. Rather than waste screen time showing Zuko milling around, crawling the dregs of his plotline forward, show us the downfall of Azula's mental state. Show Ty Lee finally seeing that that she doesn't want to be Azula's pawn anymore. These are really, really critically important plot beats for how the story turns out, and they happen so suddenly. We should have spent a lot more time building up these ideas more. And with just a little bit of rearranging or episode cutting, I think we would have had a lot more time to set up those ideas. Honestly, out of the whole season, there's only 2 episodes that I think could have been cut out. First is the Avatar and the Fire Lord.
Nice one, Sozin.
You were friends with Fire Lord Sozin?
It's cool to see, but ultimately it was unnecessary. We didn't need to see how the war started, and learning that Zuko's distantly related to Roku doesn't really add anything to his character. Zuko was already a character with inner conflict thanks to the different styles of upbringing from Ozai, his mother, and Iroh. We didn't need to imply his family lineage was adding on to that too. And second, the Boiling Rock really didn't need to be a 2-parter.
I hope we haven't just made a huge mistake.
The dude they break out of prison with disappears immediately after the episodes are over. In part 1, he has a girlfriend and a buddy he wants to escape with, but they get dropped entirely with the second episode. It was weird that they got their dad back just to turn around and separate themselves from him like 3 seconds later. It was especially goofy because they're like, OMG, no dad, we just got you back. We can't separate again. And then they leave dad behind, but they make sure to bring Suki with them? It's just like, sorry dad, not enough room on the bison. Not enough room for you. There's plenty of room for Suki though. So yeah, cut out those 2 episodes and use that extra runtime to establish Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee's development more. Have episodes where Zuko and Suki can engage with the team in fun ways. Overall, Book 3 isn't bad. Far from it. All that stuff I said in the beginning is still very true. Avatar is amazing and sets the bar higher than most stories have ever tried to before. But I think Book 3 had really high expectations for it, and it just doesn't quite stick the landing. But what do you think? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said here? I'd honestly love to hear your thoughts about Book 3 or any of the seasons of Avatar. Let me know in the comments below. Shout out to my $10 patrons, you're all amazing. Andrew, Valhalla Knight, Chamomile, Classy Critic, Noah Perkins, Sunny Shy, Jake, Amber, Hype Man, Zero to Hero, Isaiah, Scaring Crows, Messiah Complex, Jacob, Ben's Sketchbook, The Watcher, Omega Fighter, Trash, Wild Pilot, Josh, Gino, Twisty, Juan, Bunkin Duncan, and Alpha 99. I hope you liked this. Of course, I binge watched Avatar again because the live action one came out, and I had nothing interesting to say about the live action one, but I wanted to talk about Book 3. So, what do you all think? I think having Zuko be a part of the team in some of the fun shenanigan episodes would have really helped, but I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Any thoughts and opinions, leave them down in the comments below. I would really love to see them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.